This conference will now be recorded.
Hi all, welcome to the 2020 and also welcome to the SAP ABAP Object Orientation, the next session. And in the last few classes, we have seen what exactly the object orientation. So what object orientation will ensure is it provides a code reusability, it provides a code readability and code maintainability, and also data security and inheritance, encapsulation. The security comes under the encapsulation and polymorphism and abstraction. And we have seen what exactly the object and what exactly the class in the last few classes. The object is an instantiation of a class, and also the class is a reference to the object, and the class contains the source code, and also it contains the attributes, methods, events, and the types. So that is exactly in a class, and the class is in a skeleton to the object. And so we have the methods. Method is nothing but in a function and deriving the same kind of functionality. That's a method. And each method and events will have an interfacing parameters. We have importing and exporting, changing and returning, and exceptional parameters. So importing means we can pass the data to the inside the method. The exporting means we can get the data outside of the method. That's the resulting parameters. And also we have changing. We can pass the value, and as well as we can change the value, and exceptions. We can raise the errors and by using exceptions. That's in a class. But how do you define the class? So if you want to define the class, and there are four steps. One is the class definition. First, you need to define the class. What are the attributes we need to have inside the class? What are the methods? What are the events which we need to declare inside a class? That's a class definition and end class. But whenever you define a class, you must define a encapsulation. You must define a security, and that's a public, private, and protected. Public, protected, and private. Public means you can access within the same class. You can access within the subclasses. You can access within the friends class, and also you can access from the external programs as well. Guys, that's a public. And protected means so you can access within the same class, you can access within the subclasses, you can access within the friends class, but you cannot access from the outside of the class, and from the external programs you cannot access it. Then private, so you can access from the same class, you can access in its friends classes but not in the subclasses. If the subclass becomes a friend class, then we can access it, and external programs we cannot access it. But still, if you want to use a friends class, what you need to do, you need to create one more class, and that class you need to make as a friends class of the parent class. Then you can use from the external programs, make a public and make it from the external programs. That's a public, private, and protected. And also once you define the class, you must implement the class. The step is class implementation. So if you want to implement a class, the second step is class implementation. So you can implement the class by using class and class name and the implementation and end of the class days. Inside the implementation, so we are going to implement the methods, and that's a class implementation. But how do you define a attributes and how do you define a methods? There are different types of attributes we have. One is static attribute, the second one is the instant attribute, and third also there it's a constant attribute as well. Constant means it's like a constant, right? The constants is the declarations to declare in a constant values. So you cannot change in a constant value anywhere, nowhere you can change it, the constant value. And we have three types of attributes. One is the static and another one is the instance attributes. So static, how you define the static is the class data is in a static attribute definition, and class methods is in a static method declaration. And if you want to call the static things, no need to instantiate the class, just you can directly call the class, and equal and greater than is an operator to access any static attributes or static methods. If it is an instance attribute or if it is an instance method, you must you must instantiate the class, and to instantiate in a class, so we need to define a data object, data, and the data object name. So normally if it is in a global object, we declare GO means global, O means object, global object underscore some name, and type ref to your class name. So that's in a data object. You need to have a data object for the object to store the values in the object. And if you want to call any instance attribute or instance method, we are going to use the object. We don't use the class. We are going to use an object and hyphen and greater than to access an instance attribute and instance method. But can you call your static attributes from the instance? Yes, we can call it. But instance things you cannot call from the static case, and you can call the static ones from the instance, and that's an instance versus the static. And also, so there are two default methods in the class case. One is the class constructor and another one is the constructor. Class constructor is in a default method and default static method. Default static method is the class constructor. Where is that? So yeah, so it is in a static constructor. It's in a default method. So no need to call the method. If you want to call the method, normally what will we use? Call method and class name and method. Or if it is an instance method, object, call method object and hyphen greater than and your instance method. But if it is in a class constructor and constructor, it's a default methods which will be executed by system itself, SAP itself. Not only SAP, in any concept, the methods are executed by default. Okay, no need to explicitly call the method. So whenever you call the class, automatically the static constructor will be executed, and whenever you create an instance, whenever you create an object, the constructor will be executed by default. The first default method is the class constructor. The second default method is the constructor. If there is no static constructor or class constructor, the first default method is the constructor. This is the difference. And class constructor or static constructor, you cannot define any interfacing parameters. So you cannot have an importing parameter, you cannot have any exporting parameter, you cannot have any changing parameter, returning parameters and exceptions. But the constructor, you can have an interfacing parameters. That's a difference between the class constructor and the constructor. So that's what we have seen. And there are some points about the static and instance. So we can access static and instance attributes in a instance method. We cannot access the instance attributes in the static methods. While calling the static attributes or methods directly from object, we can, that means instance we can access. But where in case of when you call directly the class, you cannot call the instance one case. And static class constructor executes only once. And also suppose if you creating multiple objects, the class constructor is the static constructor which will be executed only once. But the constructor is how many times you create an instance, how many times you create an object, that many times the constructor will be executed. That's a difference between the static and instance constructors and attributes. And also, guys, one more point I have declared. Suppose I have defined a class definition, class one class definition, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. But the class 4 is inside at 50th line, let's assume. So your class fourth class is defined in the 50th line. Suppose if you want to access the class in the below, in the top, then we need to use a definition. So class name, definition, default. This statement you need to use, then you can access your class which is declared at the 50th line. And if you want to access before defining that class, then we need to use default definition, default case. Every point is an important, guys. Okay, then friends class you already know. If it is in a friends class, the private and protected attributes you can access it. That's in a friends class. And casting, suppose if you want to assign the objects, so you know inheritance. So what exactly the inheritance? Yeah, accessing the parent class objects into the child class objects. It's an inheritance, not objects, the components. Sorry, the components. Object is different, component is different. Suppose what is the class components attributes? methods, events, right? So and also types, the data declarations also. So if you want to inherit the functionality, reuse the parent class into the subclasses, we are going to use an inheritance. So inheritance, we can access the parent class components into the child class components. Okay, that's an inheritance. And suppose, so there are two classes, one is the parent class, one is the child class, and you can create only one object instance. Suppose if you want to access that object instance into the child class, we are going to use a casting. So there are two types of casting. One is the upcast, another one is the downcast. Upcast means assigning child class objects into the parent class objects. That's an upcasting. U and W, widening casting. And next one is the downcast. Parent is up and the child is down. So assigning parent class object into the child class objects, that we call, it's a downcasting, and down the n arrow casting case. Okay, so alphabets down, up, du and nw base. This is the way I need to remember. That sometimes I will confuse here. That's why I put this. And next, the local class. Yeah, one more thing. We have seen the two types of classes. One is the local class. That means you are going to write the entire code inside your own program. So if you declare that class in one side, one program, that class is available in that program only. But if we want to reuse that class globally, it's not at all possible. And if you want to globally use the class, we are going for the global classes. Okay, everything SAP gives automation. The code will generated by automatically. Just you need to define and declare the attributes, methods, and types and events. And the transaction code to define the global class is the SE24 case. So that's the things we have seen. The exceptions, if you want to raise an exception, define the exceptions in the methods and raise exception, the exception name raise. So these are all the things we have discussed in last few classes. And today, in the last class, I think I stopped with the global class. I think I have explained the global class. So example of the global class, how we are going to create a global class. And I assume that you are familiar with the local classes, and I'm going to the global class. We are going to extensively use the global classes. Local classes is limited, but global class we are going to use. Okay, heavily we are going to use the global classes. And also, guys, the object orientation is the key concept in the, not only in ABAP, anywhere. Without a object orientation, you cannot implement any technology. So as a developer point of view, I'm talking, not other, the consultants, the testers, they doesn't require these things. But as a developer, as a programmer, and also as a future software engineer, you must know the object orientation. Every technology is built up, the advanced technologies are built up based on the object orientation base. So here in ABAP also we have advanced concepts. Okay, the advanced concepts which we have is yeah, so reports, there are many ways we can do the reporting. One is the one reporting you have seen by using write statement, output statement, write uline, vline, and skip, right, formatting, colors and all. So that's normally we don't do that kind of reporting. We are going to do any reports by using ALV, object list viewer, by using function modules, by using object orientation. That is the, so you must know the object orientation and you must know the modularization techniques to build these ALV reports. That's why I kept hold this reporting concept. So first you must know the prerequisite, the function modules, the subroutines, the object orientation you should know. So after the object orientation, we are going to directly back to the ALV reporting. The enhancements. So what exactly the enhancement is? So there is a predefined product. SAP is in a product. Okay, you have a predefined application. That means ready-made application. Suppose if you want to alter the ready-made applications, we are going to use an enhancement concept. This is also very important concept. And the automation, workflow, WebDrive Pro, and OData. If you want to access SAP applications, we use as a middleware, as an OData, and CDS, OData services. We can do a lot of things, and AMDP, ABAP managed database procedure and Fury. All these technologies are built up with the object orientation, and also there are some interfaces also. Guys. So the HTTP interfaces, we can do an interfacing from different servers, different systems to the SAP by using object oriented, by using class. Class provides a data integrity as well as we can provide the integration between the different systems. So we can do that as well as. So that's why. So object orientation is very very important. You must and you must know the object orientation. So that's how these are all the key concepts, guys. If you know this concept, okay, definitely there is a job. No one will stop you, guys. No one, even God also will not stop you. Okay, if you know this concept, definitely you are going to get the job, guys. So that's the thing. And so yeah, so we have talked about this. It gives the clear picture of what exactly the public and protected. And so the one more is control space, code suggestion. So do the control space, it will provide a code suggestion. And yeah, that's it, guys. So that's the recap of the previous object orientation sessions. And we'll go to the practical. And so theory is okay, guys, but you need to achieve those things via practically. Okay. Switch on. And this, huh? So you know, right? Suppose if you want to get any, sometimes guys in the office, sometimes some people ask, what is your IP configuration, right? So you don't know how to get IP configuration, I think, right? So IP config. Okay, here actually I am checking. Yeah, I am able to connect to the other system, SAP system or not. So some server, if you want to see the connection, we are going to use ping and the IP address, the target host IP address. Then it will give reply from this. If you get this message, means that you are able to connect that server. Suppose some people, if you want to install something on your computer, so the IT people, the network people will ask you, what is your IP address? So you need to click CMD. First, the shortcut is come here, and here you need to type CMD, okay, and you will get a command prompt. And here you need to press IP config. Okay, this kind of things you should not ask your friends, huh? So your colleagues. If you ask, they may think you don't know anything. So you should know these two things. These two commands. One is IP config, another one is the ping and IP address. I think server is they didn't start the server. So guys, this is a big course. Okay, the last few batches due to some insufficient people, it is delayed. But this batch, I have enough people, means 10 people. So I would like to complete as soon as possible this batch. Okay, so maybe from this month I may take the Sundays as well. Okay, please you have to support me. Okay, so why? Because it's in a very big course. Even other batches also I am planning for the Sundays. And also I planned one more sessions on the project sessions. In the Saturday afternoon, I am going to plan for the project sessions. Okay, so the real-time concepts parallelly I am going to explain. I am going to start from the previous batch from this Saturday. After the post lunch, I am going to take the project kind of stuff. Okay, so this kind of exercise I am going to plan for the next classes. The previous batch is little bit delayed. Actually, it should be 5 to 6 months, but it is delayed. So it takes almost 7 to 8 months. But for your batch, I would like to complete within that time frame. If I want to complete, I don't want to skip the concepts. Okay, I can complete it, but I don't. I would like to give an 100% quality. So if I want to complete total full-fledged course, I need to take an a Sundays as well. Even Saturday, Sundays, more time I need to take it. Guys, you have to support me on that part. Okay, because if it is delayed, it will be delayed to yours also, your goals also, right? So that is the one point which I have to consider. Hmm? And so, and also guys, my sincere request is, so I have observed some of the people, it's a generic to all, not too specific to one person. And so practically, okay, you are good, I have seen, but whenever I ask the questions, you are not able to explain. Why? Because, so one thing is maybe the presentation skills. So if you want to have a presentation skills, okay, so if you are having lack of communication skills, so my sincere request is, please spend 1 hour on this PPT. Okay, daily 1 hour. Okay, so in the night time after your dinner, okay, please read for 1 hour. Okay, maybe you can read for 20 pages daily. Okay, 20 pages you read it, and on daily basis. And so don't tell any additional things. I have given a precise and concise answers in these PPTs, precise and shortcut answers. Okay, if you are able to tell the same thing, that will be enough for the interview purpose. Okay, anyway, these are useful for the interview point of view, and you need to read it. From the practical, you know how to do it, but when I ask the question, you are not able to explain. Why? Because the technical terms, the definitions are also important. So you have to read my PPT. So if you read my PPT, no need to by heart. Just if you read it, you are going to understand it. Why? Because already you know the practical. So if you know the practical, it doesn't take much time to read the PPTs case. Okay, please spend 1 hour on the PPT part. Okay. I'm getting reply, but server. No. Okay. So till here, total fundamentals phase, even other batches also. Please refer this PPT. Okay. So enter till now 145. I think object orientation more, or 10 to 15 slides. So 170 pages, pure up fundamentals. I will consider the 170 PPTs are the pure fundamentals of an ABAP. The later concepts, actual concepts comes, the reporting, ALV reporting, from ALV reporting, the real time which we are going to do, the actual projects we will start from the reporting with the ALV, not with the right statement. Those are to improve your coding skills. You must know those concepts. Okay, that's all to improve the your coding skills. From now, a lot of things are the template based things. Okay, you need to know how to call the existing functions, existing classes, existing methods. So you need to know how to use them. That's it. The concepts are very easy only. Till now, the foundation is like say pillars to your building. pillars to your ABAP course till now. But the later section, everything is the construction. Okay. So here also the 170 pages are purely the fundamental part. Fundamental part. And also I would like to introduce, so SD I have introduced. Next I need to introduce MM module and as well as FICO module. So maybe for you I will introduce the FICO early in the early stages itself, and so maybe I will take 2 minutes guys.